Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm Dr. Mehnaz Afridi, the director of the Holocaust, Genocide and Interfaith Education Center, and I'm also assistant professor in religious studies. And I teach Islam, world religions, genocide, and the Holocaust. And I welcome you here tonight. Thank you for coming. It's a very special night and evening for me. And what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you to Carmen Francesca Banciu, and we will proceed with her reading from her book. And she's going to read from two of her books. One is Mother's Day, and one is Berlin is My Paris. First of all, I'd like you to please shut off your cell phones, because this is a reading. Okay. And the other thing is that as on your way out, you will find that we have Carmen's books on sale for $17. She's willing to autograph them for you. And also on your way out, we would really, really appreciate if you filled in the assessment forms for the HCI assessment thing. And my provost is here, and he can tell you why it's so important. But it is really important. And I also want to mention that our Kristallnacht lecture this year, it's the 9th Frederick Schweitzer lecture, named after Dr. Schweitzer, who is right here, the founder of the center that I run, is on November 15th at 6 p.m. in Smith Hall by Dr. Maud Mondell, who is the dean at Brown University and also a professor of history. Her very interesting talk, and I found her on a podcast, believe it or not, but she's amazing, is called Is Fraternity Possible? Muslim-Jewish Relations in Contemporary France, History and Reflections. So I invite you to note that down. Since your cell phones are turned off, you should write it down. November 15th, 6 p.m., Smith Hall. Okay. So Carmen and I met in September of 2015 while I was visiting Berlin through a dear old friend, Catherine. And actually, Catherine is the press that Carmen has published with her translation of her book, Mother's Day. We met at a quaint cafe that brought stainless steel pitchers of German strong coffee. We spoke about her book, her childhood under communism, and I insisted there must be a role of religion if it had creeped into her in any way. She said no, religion had nothing to do with it. And I, as a religious studies person, was very disappointed. I was intrigued by her responses and wondered if she could shed some light in a new and novel way to our students at Manhattan College. As I sat with her, I also understood why she chose Berlin, a place that I visited twice in 1 year for work, a place where so many historical decisions were made and where one can still feel the slight differences of East and West. Berlin represents a bridge between East and West, and more than just that, it is a place that is ever evolving and continually reinventing itself. I too witness this change in vibrant culture that seduces any intellectual, artist, and especially writer. This is where Carmen has made her home. Carmen, I welcome you to Manhattan College, and I would love to list the many national prizes that you have won, but I will instead say a little bit more about Mother's Day, Song of a Sad Mother, that speaks to the center's focus on genocide and ideology. But what the novel does, and what's so intriguing to me as the director, is that it paints a human face, a memoir of relationships broken, repaired, and also one that wears the mask of ideology, in this case, communism. The way that Carmen reaches into the depths of ideological belief and how the severe actions of such a belief can only ruin a life, lives and creativity. In this case, it is through the perspective of Maria, who thinks she had broken away from her domineering mother long before her cutting criticism had prevented her from rejecting the values and ideals that her authoritarian and communist party line parents towing parents held so dearly. To their crushing dismay, she would not deploy her artistic talents toward embodying the communist model of the new man or woman, or the new human that was being created. Quite the contrary, she was going to revel in being imperfect and embarks on a journey of self-exploration in order to discover what it means to be a self that is not defined by being her mother's daughter or a mother to her own daughter. Putting everything at stake to detach from the primal bond that both oppresses and eludes her, Maria opens herself up to and achieves the unexpected. Banciu explores an uncompromising struggle for selfhood in a singular voice that is vulnerable and authentic, emotional and unsparingly honest. Beyond a literal study of the complex dynamics that inextricably bind and repel mothers and daughters, Banciu's Mother Day, Song of a Sad Mother, is a courageous reflection of what it means to become and accept oneself with all the renunciations and rewards that this fraught journey entails. Welcome, Carmen.
First of all, hello to everybody. I'm very impressed that so many students are here. And I'm happy that I see there is interest for books and for readings and for themes or for subjects like Eastern Europe or also Berlin, because I will read also from my book about Berlin. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I feel very honored and happy, not only because of the importance of the institution, but also because of the beauty of the place. Thank you so much for the introduction and for presenting my novel in such a special and a clear way. I will start with reading from Mother's Day. I will read the beginning and another chapter, and then later I propose that we make a session of questions and answers, and then I read a piece from Berlin's My Brothers, if you agree.
Yes, we agree.
Flowers for Mother. I brought her flowers, but Mother wasn't used to flowers. I'm not dead yet, she said. I didn't know what to do with them. The fleshy roses suddenly seemed obscene. She said, throw them away if you can't think of anything better to do with them. Nothing came to me. It was as if I was paralyzed. You need to come, Father said on the phone. It was important. He didn't say whether it was important for him or for whom and why. I should come immediately, and I took the first flight. Did she want to see me? And did I want to see her? An odor of burnt dolls mixed with a fragrance of chrysanthemum floated in the air. But chrysanthemum was only in my head, and that with the dolls was a long time ago. I brought Mother roses. While I lay in bed, she said that I should pray for her. Mother said pray as if it were the same as washing hands. I had only been taught to wash hands. I can't pray. Mother never told me about praying, so that I would never depend on anyone. You can only depend on yourself, she said. And I memorized this lesson very well. I memorized this lesson and at the same time forgot it instantly. I stood there with a bouquet of flowers in my hand and didn't know what to do with it. I was supposed to hug Mother. She lay on several pillows, bolstered up. Her lips were blue, parched, and stuck to the gums. The gums were a shade of blue-gray-red. The hair on her head fell in strands and had suddenly turned gray. She was all at once old, very old. Before my eyes she transformed. Beneath her skin, I saw my great-grandmother. She lay on several pillows. Mother was getting older and older, until I could no longer recognize her. Her temples were made of parchment, and the skin above her cheekbones was so stretched out that it threatened to rip apart. I was afraid of great-grandmother, who suddenly lay in bed and said, "Go, I'll have you called if I need you." Great-grandmother spoke with Mother's voice. I held the flowers in my hand and had no idea what to do with them. Who had ever given Mother flowers? I had never given Mother flowers, except for Mother's Day. Mother's Day was on the 8th of March. It was international, and one honored all mothers of the world by honoring one's own mother. We honored our mothers in school. The honorees were at their workplace, fulfilling their duties. For them, we sang songs and we recited poems. The mothers had already ironed our uniforms so that we appeared honorable on the stage honoring them. Mother never noticed that any of this, but the honor was in the air, and perhaps it reached her in mysterious ways. Only Mother never said anything about it. It was always so. One honored all the children of the world by celebrating Children's Day. Even on Children's Day, we were on the stage and sang and recited to honor childhood, being a child, and the children of the world, and mourned for dead children who had no idea that they were children, because these children had to work, submitting to exploitation, or shoot with a rifle at other people, and never had a chance, like we did, to celebrate childhood. I had never given Mother flowers, except for International Women's Day on March 8th. Mother reached the flowers symbolically. Actually, the comrade teacher, who was also a mother, received them on behalf of all the mothers of the world. Nobody had given Mother flowers. Father didn't even know that flowers existed. At home, we had plastic roses, roses that last a lifetime, that last longer than a life, and that one can pass on to the next generation. Vanity, squandered money and rose. Mother would have no part of it. A day in life of my mother, says Maria. On any given day, I gladly would not have to be there, to have been there. I'd love to know what Mother thinks, who Mother is. Once, we were made to write an essay for Mother's Day. Everyone wrote one about their mother, about the role they played in our society. Who is my mother? My mother is the most wonderful mother in the world. My mother is a tractor driver. She works for the LPG, Agricultural Production Cooperative, and with a tractor makes furrows in the soil. There she lets seeds fall into the furrows with a seeding machine. The seeds germinate and grow. In summer, Mother comes with a harvester and reaps the grain. From the grain, bread is made. For the world, mother can also bake bread. The bread is fresh and tastes good. My mother is the most wonderful mother in the world. That wasn't my essay. It was Doreen's essay. And we all envied him because he received that year the first prize at school, in school. Whoever received the first prize was very much loved by their mother because she was proud. She was proud to show the other mothers on Mother's Day how well she fulfilled her duties as a mother and how useful she was to society. Each mother that was useful to society was a happy mother, was told to us in school. We only had happy mothers in our society. Mothers was useful, and yet one would see that she wasn't one of the happy mothers. In the first year of school, I tried really hard. I received the first prize. But Mother's face did not light up with pride. This warming, all-encompassing smile, I wasn't able to echo with her. Mother didn't know the word happiness. It wasn't part of her vocabulary. It wasn't part of her life. And Father said, we expected nothing else from you. And the book is made that way that each chapter, or most of the chapters, have a title and corresponding to one body part of the body of the mother, like mother's tongue, mother's womb, mother's feet, mother's heart, mother's back, and so on. But I will read another chapter, and that's called Mother's Pain. It is always told, the story is always told from the perspective of Maria, who is coming to Berlin, and the narrator is sitting in a cafe and meeting Maria, who every day tells her a piece of her story. And yes, I needed to create this character this way because I had to use the novel, to write a novel in the first person. It is a very important, for me, a very important step in telling I from we, to tell I. And that's why most of my books are read in the first person. Mother's pain. Sometimes Mother commanded me, bring me the strap. And I brought her the strap. And she struck me. And she struck the rage out of herself. She struck it into me. Mother was overflowing with rage. She was seething with it, and the foam was not to be wasted. It was all for me, because lashing had a meaning for Mother. Education. Everyone in our society had their own way of educating. We were educated everywhere and by everyone. We were educated in school. The saleswoman was allowed to educate us, the milkman, the party. Children were there to be educated by society. Everyone belonged to our society and was allowed to educate. Everyone was authorized to do so, because children were to be practiced upon in creation of the superior human being. The new human for our society, the new human for the new era. The children were supposed to become even more superior than the adults, and someday have their own children, on whom they too will be allowed to practice upon. Until then, however, they had to endure without complaint. I was engaged with mother, enraged with mother, and felt guilty. I tried to suppress the rage, for I knew mother has my best interest at heart. And mother does everything that she is able to do for society, for my education. It wasn't always successful at being a sensible, responsible human being. It wasn't always successful at appreciating the necessity of the lashing. For that I wanted to atone. I never confessed. When one confesses, one absolves oneself from rage, and one is rid of guilt. Mother never confessed either. Her whole life she hoarded rage within herself. The overflow she passed on me. The overflow increased every day, and the rage continued to grow autonomously. I hoarded it inside of me. The rage grew inside of me every day. Every day I wanted to become a superior human. Every day suppressed, every day I strangled the rage. Mother said one should not hate. I didn't know that I could hate. Mother said one should love one's parents. I don't know if I loved mother. To love. Back then, I didn't know if I could love. Every day I tried to strangle the rage. The rage seized inside of me. I built a boiler for it, a high-pressure boiler. Mother said, bring me the strap. And I brought her the strap. Mother said, drop the pants, and I dropped them. And then I knew that mother has the best intention. She educates me, and all will be, I'll be a superior human. Bring the strap, yelled mother. I trembled. It wasn't out of fear. I stopped being afraid a long time. I knew that mother didn't want to kill me, just educate. Father wanted to educate me as well, but he wasn't allowed to do so anymore. Mother had forbidden him because father couldn't control his rage when it erupted. Father's rage was limitless. It wasn't suitable for education. Father was offended, but also free from responsibility. He had to relinquish education. He said, this is what mothers are for. They bear the responsibility for children's education. The school also bore responsibility. The teachers were allowed to educate. They weren't allowed to hit. In school, one was only allowed to be put in a corner and kneel on corn kernel for the rest of the period. Sometimes for the whole period. The corn kernels penetrated the skin of the knees. One had to scrape them out. The knees fell asleep, and then they didn't feel the pain. I could withstand a lot. I didn't cry. The corn kernels grew inside my knees. There was mother's rage, and there was the teacher's rage. I wasn't prepared to accept the teacher's rage. I let it fall off of me. Mother was notified, but mother complained to the school administration. She said one should not take their rage out on the kids. One should only educate them, otherwise she would complain to the party. This was when our teacher was still patient and we had to lay on our hands on the school desk, palms up, and the teacher came by with a ruler. And when she left, our palms were searing with pain. When mother had unleashed her rage, when this task was meticulously completed, she set the strap aside and wanted to talk to me. Mother wanted us to be friends and for me to trust her and trust her with everything. I could not entrust mother with my rage and the doubt of my love. Mother was not educated by the party. Mother was educated in a Catholic boarding school by the merciless nuns. There, mother had to kneel on corn kernels and put her fingertips together so the sisters could hit them with a ruler. That was during the old regime. The nuns had no idea how to educate children for a new society. Only the new teacher knew. Mother was against governments and rulers. Rulers are not the solution, she said. I'm going to complain to the party. Sometimes I would faint to escape the pain, to suppress the rage, when it threatened to get out of control. Sometimes I would faint. The reason nobody ever figured out. The doctor tried his best, gave me medicine for epileptics. Mother didn't want an epileptic daughter, and she was right. Father wouldn't hear it. A daughter was already bad enough. The treatment was cancelled. I stopped fainting. Fainting was not the solution. I realized that soon enough. That was fortunate. It saved my life. Our society had no room for the faint. They didn't contribute to the system. When Mother had unleashed her rage, she was unloaded for a while. Whether she was satisfied, I don't know. She was in the mood to talk to me. I wasn't. I couldn't talk. The jaw was compressed tightly, the hands clenched into fists, the neck stiff, the shoulders constricted. In me, the image of the superior human. When Mother had put the strap aside, she felt better for a short while. Then the headache started. She moved from headache to headache. She measured time from one headache to the other, before the headache and after the headache, or until the next headache. Mother knew they would be back soon, because educating children causes headaches. I was an only child. The entire education was given exclusively to me. At the same time, Mother believed that sharing was important. I was an only child. Learning to share was important. One time I had hidden cookies for myself. Mother found them. This incident I would never have remembered, but Mother made sure I would. One is not allowed to hide anything from one's family. One has to lead a transparent life. One's not allowed to be greedy, not egoistical, and one has to share everything. I have to teach you that, said Mother, because you don't have any siblings, and it ended the strap. Yeah, I think this would be from Mother's Day. Or do you have any wish? Or maybe we start to discuss and then.
Yeah, and then maybe you can,
Yeah.
So if you have questions for this part of it, I encourage you to ask Carmen any questions, and then she's going to read a little bit from Berlin's Macaris.
What motivated you to write Mother's Day?
What made me write? What made me write? It was, first of all, it was the fact that I realized that I did not understand Mother or my mother, and also because my mother was not only my mother, she was somebody representative for a country, for a system, for a period in history. And I tried to understand why she became the way she became. I have to say that she was raised in a totally other context before the communism, coming from a family with educated family with books and independent women, but she was a daughter of the unofficial, what do you say? She was not. Her father was not, in fact, her real father. She was
Adopted.
She was
not
adopted.
No,
Stepfather?
no. Well, the mother had an affair with
An official?
Illegitimate.
Okay.
illegitimate, sorry, thank you. An illegitimate daughter, and she had to cope with two situations: the fact that the mother had an affair, and she couldn't accept this. And at the same time, the father, or the man, the lover of the mother, who was a Jewish man, and this was another problem in a country where, even after the communism, anti-Semitism was an issue. But even during before the communism, the daughter, this daughter, had always a special treatment, a different treatment from her sister. For instance, she was obliged by her mother to go to the Hitlerjugend in Romania at the time, and the other daughter wasn't. So my mother was marked by experiences and by things that had a big influence on her, but she never wanted to talk about this. I never knew this. I heard it after her death, 30 years after her death, when I wanted to go, or I went to Germany, and my aunt asked me, "Do you really want to Germany?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" And then she told me the story. And so I wanted to discover who was this person, and also how it how it is possible that people are marked by their personal history, but also by the history of the country, by ideology, how they become who they are, and how this also creates a frustrating life for them, which has an impact on the rest of the world around them. So I try to understand who she is, because I wanted to understand who I am, in fact,
Questions?
Yeah, it's okay. I don't need to go on, but thank you so much for being here, Carmen. I have a question about language, right? I have a question about the language in which you compose your work, and also about translation, and how you sort of feel about that whole process. When your work, I know your work's been translated into other languages, so how do you feel when that happens? Does it add, does it take away? And when you compose too, how do you hear it? In what language do you hear it? In what languages do you think this story is